Hello! Do you want to develop your child's language? Do you want to learn strategies professionals use to support your child's language skills? Well, keep watching to learn more. I'm Lindsey. I will explain 2 strategies professionals use to support children's language development. Whether it's ASL or in English, both strategies help you expose your child to more language. What is wrong? What is the purpose of this workshop? It's to help you understand how to continue your child's language development by using 2 strategies called recasting, which I'll use this sign, and expansion, shown by this sign. It's also to inform you of language milestones for different ages. It will help you understand what to focus on and look for when you're trying to help improve your child's language. What is on the agenda today? There are 5 things. First, we will discuss language developmental milestones for children between the age of birth and 3 years old. Then, we will discuss what the meaning of recast and expansion is. Afterwards, we will look at text examples of recast and expansions, both for ASL and English. Then we will watch video clips of recasts and expansions, again for both ASL and English. Then you will have prompts, and you will have to try to create recasts and expansions for each prompt. Then we will discuss possible recasts and expansions to the prompts. Now we will discuss language developmental milestones for children between the ages of birth and 3. We will discuss language developmental milestones for ASL. Remember, these vary. They are typical guidelines. They are not set in stone. For children between the ages of birth and 1, they will recognize change in facial expressions. They will recognize common signs for things. Children respond with gestures and to requests. Children will babble similarly to children who are acquiring spoken English, meaning they will mimic movements and mimic signing. Even so, they will use hand gestures and mimic hand shapes, such as the B hand shape and the 5 hand shape. The children will try to produce 1 to 2 word utterances with only one word sign. For children acquiring ASL between the ages of 1 and 2, they typically follow simple requests and can make simple requests, as well as ask simple questions. They can say something such as, "Sit," and "What's that?" They pay attention to simple stories and recognize their name as well as the name of people they are familiar with. Children can produce questions using 1 to 2 signs. They also express 2-sign sentences using pointing. They also use pointing to ask questions. They can communicate their wants and needs as well. For children between the ages of 2 and 3, they understand the purposes of a question as opposed to a sentence. They can follow 2-step requests and understand turn-taking in a conversation. They can respond to questions and also have a vocabulary of 350 word signs or more. They typically use adjectives to describe words and things. They also request help if they need it. They can count from 1 to 5 by themselves. And they can tell short, simple stories. Now we're finished with ASL milestones. We will focus on English language milestones. Again, it's important to recognize that these are general guidelines. Child's language development varies, and it depends on the amount of exposure to language. For children between the ages of birth and 1, they can recognize names as well as recognize words as symbols for things. They also babble. They copy speech movements and sounds. They also say 2 to 3 words more developed than mom and dad. They also copy words and understand simple instructions. For children between the ages of 1 and 2, they understand the word no and more and use them often. Children typically use 10 to 20 words in their vocabulary. They also use them to form a sentence. They also use onomatopoeias, which are words that mimic sounds, such as bam and boom. Oops. For children between the ages of 2 and 3, they typically continue having a conversation with themselves and ask, "What's that? Where's my?" They use two-word negative sentences, such as don't want and can't do. Children also say some plural words by adding an S to the end. They also have a 450-word vocabulary. They use nouns and verbs to make simple sentences. They refer to themselves as me and chat with other children and adults. Children can respond to where questions. Now we will discuss recasting and expansion. What do they mean? Recasting means you change the sentence structure of your child's utterance, but you keep the content the same. An expansion summarizes the child's utterance, but increases the complexity of the sentence structure or the meaning. I chose the sign for recasting because the content stays the same, but the sentence structure changes. I chose this sign for expansion because it expands by increasing the complexity of the sentence. For both, it is important to use full grammatically correct sentences. By using full grammatical sentences instead of short sentences, it will benefit the child more by providing more language for them to learn. Now, next, I will explain a few examples. Now we will discuss recast and expansion examples for ASL. There are two examples. For the first example, if a child signed doll walk, a recast could be if you change it into a question. The doll walks. You change the sentence structure from a sentence to a question, making it a recast. If you wanted to expand it, how might you respond? You can say, the doll walks to the store. You summarize the child's utterance and increase the level of complexity. For the second example, if a child said, boy sleep. For a recast, we need to change the sentence structure. So we can change it into a question. Is the boy asleep? Where's the boy asleep? You can also make the sentence a negative. The boy's not asleep. For an expansion, you need to summarize the child's utterance and increase complexity. An example would be, the boy is asleep now. The text examples are finished. Now we will move on to watching videos. Here's the first example. In the video, the child asked, "Is the internet disconnected?" And the mother replied, "There's no internet." Is that a recast or expansion? It's a recast because the mom changed the sentence structure from a question into a sentence. The child signed, "Me want Z." What would be an example of an expansion? How can you add complexity? An example of a response could be, "You want to go to the zoo." The child signed, "Want candy." How would you recast? You need to change the sentence structure. How would you do that? You could reply, "You want candy?" Change from a sentence into a question. How would you expand this? You could respond, "You want candy." It summarized the child's utterance while increasing complexity. Now we will discuss recasts and expansions in English. There are two examples. For the first example, suppose a child said, "The toy break." How would you recast? You need to change the sentence structure. You can change it into a question. Did you break the toy? If you wanted to expand the child's utterance, how would you do that? You would need to increase the level of complexity of the sentence or the meaning of the sentence. A possible response would be, "Oh no, the toy broke." This fixes the grammar of the sentence from break to broke and is a complete, full grammatical sentence. Suppose a child said, "Doggy, play." A possible response for recast could be, "Oh, you want to play with a dog?" It's a recast because you changed the sentence structure from a sentence into a question. You could also change to make it a negative sentence. So instead you could say, "No, the doggy's not playing." If you wanted to expand the child's utterance, you could reply, "The dog plays with the ball." This is an expansion because you added the third person singular S. Third person means not you or me, but someone else or something else. When the something else or someone else is singular and there's only one, the verb must add an S at the end to agree with the noun.
Look, put purple eyes in over here. Oh, you want 2 cheese balls? Are you sure? Do you want 2 cheese balls or 2 cookies?
The child said, I want 2. The adult responded, you want 2 cheese balls? Is that a recast or expansion? It's a recast because the adult changed the sentence structure from a sentence into a question. It's important to recognize that she used a grammatically correct sentence. It's important because research suggests you need to use full grammatically correct sentences to help children acquire more language skills.
This plate.
Oh no, it broke.
But Lightyear always fix the problem.
Buzz Lightyear always fixes the problem.
Yeah.
Thanks, Buzz.
You're welcome.
When you put your hands on your hips.
Yeah. That protects you of Zurg.
It protects you from Zurg.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow, 3 trains?
Yeah, because this is 1, 2, and these 2 matches, and this one is blue, and these matches too, and this one don't match because it's blue.
Yeah, these 2 match and this one doesn't match.
Yeah.
Because it's blue, you're right.
Yeah, and Thomas is blue.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one more train down you need. Don't have it.
Oh, okay.
The workers didn't make it.
Oh, okay. The workers didn't make it?
No. This all these trains.
Yeah.
The child said, it braked. The adult responded, it broke. Is that a recast or expansion? It's an expansion because it fixed the grammar, which made the utterance more complex. It did not change the sentence structure. The child also said, the workers didn't made it. The parent responded, the workers didn't make it. Is this a recast or an expansion? It's an expansion because it increased the complexity of the sentence by fixing the grammar. Now it's your turn. You're going to try to make a recast and expansion for each example. There are 2 for each ASL and English. For ASL, the 2 are book, read, and want, pet. For English, the examples are the flower yellow and leaf fall. Go ahead and try. A few possible responses for ASL examples. For the first example, you can say book, Winnie the Pooh. You read. You can also respond, what book did you read? Winnie the Pooh. Which is a recast and which is an expansion? The first response was an expansion because it increased the complexity of the meaning. The second was a recast because it changed the sentence type from a sentence into a rhetorical question. For the second example in ASL, you could respond, "What kind of pet do you want?" You could also respond, "You want a pet." Again, which is a recast and which is an expansion? How do you know? The first was a recast because it changed sentence structure. The second was an expansion because it increased the complexity of meaning. For the English examples, specifically example number 1, a possible response would be "The yellow flower is beautiful." A second response would be, "Is the flower tall?" Which is a recast and which is an expansion? And again, why? The first is an expansion because it increased the level of meaning. The second is a recast because it changed the sentence structure from a sentence to a question. For the second English example, you could respond, "Where did the leaf fall?" Another possible response is, "The leaf fell from the tree to the ground." Once again, which is a recast and which is an expansion, and why? The first is a recast because it changed the sentence structure. The second is an expansion because it increased the complexity of the meaning of the sentence. We're all done! I hope you learned more about recasting and expansions and how to use them in conversations with your child to help their language develop. Thank you for watching.